This here is the ugly truth nobody wants to tell you. What we see over here is that since 2018, the altcoins always underperformed through every bull market, through every bear market. What we see here is the altcoin dominance. So how much of all of crypto is not in Bitcoin, not in Ethereum, and not in stablecoins? That peaked at 47%, and now that's down to 17%. Since the beginning of 2018, the altcoins underperformed by more than 60%. And with every bull market, we still tended to see lower highs. So this common story everybody wants to tell us, that during a bull market we should be buying the altcoins because they outperform Bitcoin or Ethereum, it's not necessarily true. Yes, there are brief periods of outperformance, but if you don't intend to hold an altcoin just for a week or two, but for several years, the likelihood of losing is extremely high. Now here's a slight variation of the same thing. This is the others dominance. This is all the altcoins that are not in the top 10 as a fraction of all of crypto. That peaked at 20% at the beginning of 2022, and it's now at 7%. At least the smaller altcoins had another run in 2020 and 2022. We did have a new all-time high. But again, since then, so over the last 4.5 years, there has been underperformance by more than 60%. Now, when we take that data seriously, there's only two possible conclusions here. The first one is that we dismiss the altcoins altogether. Because altcoins tend to underperform, we shouldn't touch that market at all. The second conclusion is maybe we can take advantage of that, because in the end, the direction of the price doesn't really matter. We can bet on rising prices or on falling prices. What matters is just how predictable an asset is. If the likelihood is high that something will continue to underperform, we can just bet on it to continue to fall. Check this out. This is the market cap of Bitcoin plus Ethereum plus Solana relative to the smaller altcoins. How did the three majors perform relative to the smaller alts? Again, 2022 was the turnaround, and since then, the three majors outperformed the smaller altcoins by more than 200%. It looks like we have just bounced, and even in the short term, there is a potential additional outperformance of close to 50%. Now, when we look at the entire altcoin universe, not everything is the same, right? We've got the big altcoins, we've got the small altcoins. What kind of altcoins are likely going to outperform relatively speaking? That's answered in this chart here. This is the others market cap relative to total 3ES. So how are the smaller alts doing relative to the bigger alts? There seems to be an equilibrium, this dotted line. That's the long-term ratio. Sometimes the smaller alts are expensive, sometimes the bigger alts are expensive. Currently, the smaller alts might have a bit of catch-up to do relative to the bigger alts. The potential outperformance of 18% back to the equilibrium. Now, it seems like the trading range is narrowing over time. In the last 6 years, we tended to trade in a tighter range compared to the years before. And if we don't just go back to the equilibrium, but to the upper end of that trading range, the smaller altcoins could outperform the bigger altcoins by 40%. So what are those bigger altcoins that might be suffering? For example, we've got Dogecoin. We've also got Tron. We've got XRP. We've got BNB. Those are the bigger altcoins that might bleed against the smaller altcoins if the small altcoins outperform. And so here's how I personally approach this market. I don't try to pick one or two altcoins that might be outperforming, because that's almost like playing the lottery, right? We can maybe bet a small US dollar amount on that, hope for a 100x, but it's very unlikely in a market like this that we get these kind of returns. I think it's better to play the exact opposite. I think it's better if the market in general is rather suffering, and if the altcoins long-term suffer versus Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana, to bet on the smaller altcoins to go down. I work with the idea that the trend is your friend. And the trend clearly since 2018 is that the altcoins don't perform better than Bitcoin, Ethereum, or Solana. Why would I take on additional risk over Bitcoin if I don't get that risk compensated? If all the trends point towards a continuation of underperformance in the alts, then that's where I want to put my money. Trying to find the 1, 2, or 3 altcoins that outperform in a sea of losers is probably a bad idea. Why don't we just flip this chart? Everything that's green becomes red, and everything that's red becomes green. That's my personal approach. That's how I made my money over the last 2 years, 47% annualized. I don't think many people achieved that since May 2024. And that's also why the copy trading pool continues to make money. We are not finding the winners. We are finding the losers, and finding losers in a market like this is not hard. This is simply the team and the venture capitalists that get token unlocks over time, and they sell those tokens, they dump on the retail investor, and that's why the altcoins long-term underperform. It's a problem that Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana does not have. That's why I think long-term this trend will just continue. If it's your first time here, feel free to subscribe. I publish this regularly. A like would be very much appreciated as well. Feel free to also check out the premium membership that pops up here on the screen. There's a 7-day money back guarantee for premium. If you want to try out the trading strategy for free, there's also this link in the pinned comment. You can get one of the trades that I currently hold completely for free, either by scanning this QR code if you've got Telegram, or by clicking this button. Again, it's on the website that's in the pinned comment. You can also plug in your email address. Then you get that position emailed to you. I hold this position. Many premium members hold it as well. This year is completely for free. You don't need any payment, any credit card, nothing. You will also get a tutorial video that explains how to set up that trade. So thanks for watching and see you next time. Cheers.